Now, after Yunus took oath as head of interim government, Sheikh Hasina's son made a U-turn and said his mother is back in a leadership role. In an exclusive interview to WION, Wazed said Hasina never ordered the use of force. He also blamed Pakistan's ISI for fueling the protests. Listen to this.
5th of August, she came to India on a very short notice. Since then, how many times you have spoken? What is her condition? And essentially, if you can perhaps describe the events of 5th of August, how disastrous it were, and also in terms of her security and safety as well.
I've been speaking to her every day. First few days, she was in shock. She was very upset. She was very disappointed with the people of Bangladesh. But now she's in a better mood. Her spirits are up. She's much more determined to fight for her party. She has been in touch with many of our party leaders, so she's now back in leadership mode. In terms of what happened that day, my mother had decided to step down because she didn't want any more bloodshed of students because she was already being blamed. But she wanted to do it in an orderly fashion, that she would make a speech, then declare a transition, parliament would then hold new elections, and there would be an orderly transition of power. Instead, before she could do that, the students started to march on the Prime Minister's residence. She had ordered the military not to shoot at the students. So when the protesters, well, I don't know if they're students anymore because you see what they're doing. These are not the acts of student protesters. These are mobs and vandals in Bangladesh. So when they approached the army barricade, the soldiers fired in the air, but because they did not want to shoot civilians, we did not want them to shoot civilians because it would have been a massacre. And so they passed through the army barricade and started marching towards the Prime Minister's residence. At that point, her security took her to a secure location and then to the military airbase in Dhaka. At the military airbase, the helicopter was ready for her. She asked my aunt to get on the helicopter, but that she would stay behind. And at that point, my aunt called me, put me on the phone with her, and I convinced her that, no, you have to leave the country, they will kill you. And so she left the country, and now you see the result.
So you said the plan is for your mother to go back to Bangladesh. Do you sense that the government will press charges against her when it comes to usage of force when the protesters were protesting, the protests by the students?
My mother never ordered the use of force. The violence started and the police, some police members used force. Our government had already formed a 3-member judicial committee to investigate the killings. They had already suspended the police officers. There was no order. So if you'll remember, when we had the last coup, the military government arrested my mother. They charged her with corruption. It went to trial. And at trial, the case completely fell apart because there was no evidence against my mother. My mother had never been involved in corruption. My family has never been involved in corruption. So yes, they can try, but if they want to do it democratically, if they want to do it the proper way, and they take her to trial, they will never be able to convict her. She did not order any violence against the protesters.
You mentioned about foreign intelligence. You also mentioned about ISI, which is Pakistan's intelligence arm. If you can elaborate on what you suspect as their role in the protest and the eventual toppling up of a very stable Hasina government.
I mean, I believe the role was on social media and online and spending money in the media to inflame the situation and then supplying weapons. That, I believe, is what the actions were. And so, whoever behind this.
And sir, do you suspect involvement of any other country, perhaps China or US?
No, I'm positive China is not involved because China has never interfered in our internal affairs. But the US, who knows? It's entirely possible.
So do you suspect the American role as well?
I have no evidence. I cannot say definitively, but I wouldn't rule it out.
For latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.